want us to start off. Why don't we start off in each couple, just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, how many kids you have, sons, daughters, kind of what their age range is.
Start? All right. I'll start.
Oh, no, we got a mic.
You go? You go ahead. Oh, no, we go? Okay, I'll start here. I get the microphone so I can talk all I want. So we're the Orrs, Michael and Lindsay. We have 4 children, and we have a boy, a girl, a boy, and a girl. And they are age ranges from 19 to 13 with a 15 and a 17. I know I'm changing. It's now 18. She just turned 18. Ella just turned 18. So come on, happy birthday, Ella. So that was it.
We're the Sonolins. My dad was the one preaching last night, if you don't know me. We have 6 children. They are age 6 through 17. So we have a kindergartner and a senior this year. Yeah, that's our...
I'll add one thing. I am the first person on earth to marry one of Jim Anderson's daughters.
That's a lot. You need counseling.
We're Trevor and Heidi. We have 4 as well, ages 19 to 13, and boy, girl. And this is really fun to do the panel with all these people because all of our kids are really good friends. I'm like, this is pretty special.
That's awesome. So, homeschool, public school, no school, unschooled. Is that, oh my God, do I have all of them? Preschool, no, huh?
Our kids are in public school. I'm a public school teacher, and we have felt called to go in and be a light in the darkness in the public school system.
Come on.
We homeschool our kids, and we were just talking about a name for our homeschool, and Jesse mentioned maybe we should call it the Rod, Spare Not, and our son thought that was the best name.
We homeschool, and we've done some different things throughout the years with public school programs and co-ops and different things, but yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we got a mix of different backgrounds. Kids go to different schools, different ages. So hopefully we got most of you covered here tonight, because I know you have some questions, and we are going to answer them. I'm going to give you all that now. So our big questions that we're asking today is, how do we raise godly kids in a sexualized culture? And we asked these guys to come up here because we've made the mistakes so we can tell you what not to do. But we've also made right decisions that we can tell you to follow and what to do. So our culture is surrounded by sexuality, right? You can't even watch a hardcore sports game without being assaulted by the sexualized culture. And it starts in the home. It starts with the family. It starts with our daughters, starts with our sons. And so we got some really great questions here for you. So the first question, and whoever wants to answer the question first, you can go ahead. But I do want to ask each family to answer that question, if that's okay. What would you say is the most important factor when it comes to battling sexuality in your family?
I'll jump in. I think it's maybe a little counterintuitive, and I'm going to share, as I share a little bit, Allison and I both have the blessing of, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So we're kind of like an Isaac generation in that we had really, and both of us had amazing Christian parents. So we were not only we are not only parenting, but we also were parented. I am the product of what I hope to instill in my children as well. And so for both my experience as a child, and now I hope my children are experiencing, to me, the number one thing, it's the most foundational thing in this whole topic, is I need to get this right.
Come on.
I need to have, this needs to be priority. If this is going well, if this is prioritized in my life, it sets a foundation that we can build on, and we can start. It's like, do we want to make this harder on ourselves or not? Like, do we want to have a lot of problems or not as many problems? If I can get my relationship with my wife as a priority, I view our relationship as my highest earthly responsibility. Of course, I have a responsibility, number one, to the Lord, but when it comes to here on earth, our relationship and me taking care of Allison is my top priority. And if I can check that box, it creates an atmosphere in our home that allows our kids to feel secure, safe, less likely to start wandering around looking for other things to fill the pain spots in their lives. And so for me, that's where it all starts. And if I can get that right, and for me too, growing up as a kid, watching my parents model that was a game changer, and it gave me something also to look forward to. Like, this looks healthy. This looks like a good thing that I might want to look forward to. I might want to save myself for marriage and even begin to plan and build my life for marriage because it looks attractive. And if it's a disaster all around me, it becomes less and less like an ideal to say that. One little asterisk I would add to that, though, if that's not what you're experiencing, perhaps you're a single parent, or maybe your marriage has been rocky, like, don't underestimate the power of God and the ability to restore and take the broken pieces, and you can start right now, and God could do it. So I meant to say that first, but I don't want to say what I said without just making sure people understand the grace of God is so big, it is so large, and it can cover up a multitude of mistakes and errors and things as we continue on. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best answer. It is. I mean, really, it's like if your marriage is good, we never put our kids before our marriage, ever, and never will, because if we're good. So that's the number one. But I would say another big thing is having the heart of your children. So keeping connection in the midst of all the topics. Pastor Craig actually taught us that early on. He said, just whatever you do, just make sure that you have your child's heart, that there's that open connection. Because in the good days and the bad days and the struggles and the questions and all of that, they will feel that freedom. And that's been our experience, is that freedom for them to come and voluntarily have some of those conversations that we didn't necessarily bring up, they brought up because of that connection. And just in the reality, in the middle of all the failures, even this morning we had a great time in the car where Dad had to repent, and it was tense, and it was all this, and it was all that. But it's like the point is you humble yourself, you apologize, you keep connection, you keep relationship. Like you said, we're all broken, we're all growing, and so I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. We I know I was waiting for more, by the way. It was really good. Yeah, something we used to say was that if we wanted to have their hearts, then we needed to have their eyes, meaning we were always trying to look them in their eyes. And so having their heart, like not looking at a phone while we were talking to our kids or a computer. Michael would lower his laptop screen, really wanting to capture their hearts and instill the character of the Lord and talk about the Lord with them about everything, but just always having their heart, always having their eyes, so that when things came up, they would feel safe. They were used to us being there, just intimately connected to them, no matter what could come up in life.
I'll add to that. Yeah, just a little thought. When you talk about what's most important, I also think that we used just the situations in our life that we had experienced to try to look ahead and say, what do we want our kids to not experience? What do we want our kids to, what foundation do we want to lay for them? And the only way to do that is to look at what you had. That's one thing. But the second thing is to just look at what God says about what children have the capacity to be in Him, and then look forward and say, this, God lays it out and says, this is their capacity, this is their potential in me. And so we did everything we could to begin to lay foundations for those things on purpose over and over and over again. I think we did a lot. I think you got marriage, you got all these conversations, you've got just the hearts of your children, and you have intention, a ton and a ton and a ton of intention, even in the middle of all the mistakes.
That's really good. Thank you. I hope you guys are making notes. I don't see anybody writing notes. It's okay, video. I'm just kidding, yeah. My kids are like writing notes to discuss with me later. So I want to ask, what is, without mentioning any names or any ages or sex, tell me, can you give me an example of a success of when your kids come up and have questions about sexuality, of something that have really worked for you? And if you dare share a failure of kind of like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
So notice that nobody really volunteering for this question.
I was looking for someone to raise a hand down the line somewhere. A success and a failure. You know, I think actually you had talked to me about this one.
What did I say?
What did I say?
Oh, man, I don't know. This question doesn't sound the same as what I expected. Some all over the board are going, what am I going to say? What's the next thing? You guys ever do that? You should try this. This is fun. No, actually, I do have one. So the question is, what success, what failure? I can tell you early on, I had a lot of anger when I was younger as a parent. And I remember I was in graduate school. I was frustrated. These aren't excuses. I'm just telling you the context, right? And I would have all this high strain, and I'd have all this noise, and we had this big wood floor with Legos on it, and they're like death sharks at night, and you step on them, and you scream things you shouldn't scream, and then you say, thank you, Jesus, and then you go away. And I remember doing study. I remember I started getting so agitated. The kids would do different things just being kids, and I would begin to raise my voice. And it got comfortable, and I began to raise my voice, and it got more comfortable. Before long, it was normal. And Lindsay would talk to me. She's like, that's not discipline. That doesn't really discipline children. That just frustrates them, and we shouldn't be frustrating our children. We should be teaching our children. So she's trying her best, but I was frustrated until one day. I remember we had watched this movie. I don't remember what it was, but I go into Ella's closet. Now, Ella's our 18-year-old, and I go into her closet, and what's that? No, this is okay. This is not shame. This is my story, my thing. Ella's great. Don't worry about Ella. Ella will be fine. Look at her. She's like, whatever. So Ella did this very terrible thing. No, Ella didn't do anything. No, this is glorious. This is awesome. And so I go into Ella's closet, and I remember down in the bottom, I look, and Ella has these little bitty notes, all these notes, and they're prayers. And they're all her little prayers of what she wants from the Lord. And she says, dear Lord, please help my daddy to stop yelling. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be wrecked, go into a closet of your daughter when she wrote that. And I felt like that, come on, that's my daughter. I love her with all of my heart. And so I just repented. I was like, Lord, I don't know how to do that, but I'm open to it. Like whatever, I don't know what that looks like, but that's yours. I got to give that to you. Because I don't want her, Jim taught me a long time ago, like, you gotta make sure you're not breaking your daughter's hearts, because if you do, you're going to create a space and a crack. Somebody else can come speak smooth words later on. And try to charm her in broken places. Like, I don't want broken places in my children. I don't want Ella to have broken heart or Lily to have broken heart. So I don't want any space for false charm. So I think that was a big mistake early on, but I think it was recognizing that even my attitude as a father is tied to their purity.
I think probably one of the things that I wish, if I could rewind time, that I wish I would have started to do sooner. Jim has the phrase he coined. It says just breaking the sound barrier. That it's so difficult to just get started talking about things that are real. And I think we could do, I think as American parents, we could do a lot better. We do amazing at showing up to sporting events and dance classes and things like that. We probably don't do as a group collectively very good at what Jim calls breaking the sound barrier, which is just kind of that like, I'm going to start. I remember I just felt like I was supposed to talk to one of my children about something, and I sat on it for probably a month. Because I just never felt like I could quite find a perfect time to ask him this thing felt like I was supposed to ask him. And I finally did, and it was totally no big deal, and it was an amazing moment of connection. And so I know for myself personally, we're graduating more and more children into the teenage years, and I think that as they get into those years, conversations need to accelerate. They just frankly do. And so for me personally, I know that's something that I wish I would have done sooner, and just want to encourage those that are kind of right. It's just this, I don't know, it's like this cliffhanger. You're like, I'm about to ask them this simple question, how are you doing with, and it's like hanging on the balance, and I finally have to like break through as if it's this impenetrable force of just using a couple words to form a 3-word sentence. And so that's really something that I know I wish I would have done differently. Success story for us is really having a Christ-centered family, having a healthy marriage, being a part of a church, getting our kids to youth group, getting our kids to youth conferences, getting our kids to youth camps. It collectively begins to pay dividends. And for us, like, I remember the first time looking out of the corner of my eye and seeing one of my sons raise his hand in worship, or even then coming up to the front to worship, like literally tears immediately, like I felt like I maybe wasn't doing a good enough job. But here I was like, okay, collectively somehow my kids are getting this, and that is so rewarding as a parent, and things that we've done, but frankly, things we've just kind of made priorities in our lives. We're going to be at church. We're going to be at youth group. We're going to pray together as a family. And then suddenly something clicks and something sticks, and that's just an amazing blessing to watch our kids do that. And then as they're alive in Christ, and as they're functioning, just passionate for the Lord, a lot of these other things begin to just take care of themselves, because Jesus is the answer. And so as they're walking according to the answer, then it becomes a lot simpler.
Yeah, that's good.
I think for us, we've talked with our kids since they were really little about having friends and being good friends with the opposite sex. Dating is so big, even in elementary school. Like, little second graders have boyfriends and girlfriends, and you're like, no, we're not going to have a special boyfriend or a special girlfriend. We're going to have lots of friends, and we're going to honor the opposite sex, and we're thankful for our friendships. And so that's been an ongoing conversation since they were really little, because in public school, their little friends had little boyfriends and girlfriends. And so that's something we were confronted with right from the get-go. But it has been really special to have that dialogue, continue that conversation, and to watch them truly be in relationship with friends and to honor the opposite sex. And we are just so thankful to be in a church, in a youth group, where we just say, like, let's have lots of friends. Let's hang out together in groups. And it is really paid off. I mean, our kids have some really deep friendships that honor one another. They're not after each other. They're for each other, if you get what I'm saying. Like, they're not like, how can I get with that one? And she's really cute, and I want to pull on this and have an intentional friendship. We're like, those are all in time, yes, but this season is to follow Jesus. That's number one. Find him and grow in your relationship with him, and then build friendships. And our kids have some incredible friendships. And in due time, there will be a season to pursue someone intentionally. And so that has really paid off.
Yeah, and I think we talked with our kids really, really early on about sex. Like, it just wasn't, we just always did. I mean, whoever your kids hear from first, they say is the expert in their mind. And we just thought, well, you're going to hear from mom and dad first. So to the best of our ability, we did that. Our kids are public school. They never went through sex ed in school. We always opted out of that. I just signed a form yesterday for Justice to opt out again, because we want to have that conversation with them. But a great example of a win, and without naming names, is one of our kids came home from middle school and said, hey, what's a blowjob? And we're like, okay, all right. We'd talked to our kids about sex, and it's a sex conference, so you can say that. But like that, they came home and they said, what is that? And we're like, wow, we talked to you about the basics, but so we explained that, and there was like, oh, gross, that's horrible. And we're like, continue to think that way. There was another occasion when a child came home and said, hey, there's a boy in my math class, and everybody was saying that he was doing the M word in math class. What is the M word? And so we had to explain what masturbation was, and he probably wasn't doing that in class. That's kids being just really, really ridiculous and really dumb. But again, going back to, I think, that heart connection is that they felt comfortable being able to ask the question.
That's really good. Just constant communication and community. I hear a lot of community that helps with that process too. My next question is kind of like the differences between boys and girls, how you talk to them, With my son, Etienne, sitting over there, sometimes we just and he'll just go, we're like, okay, we're good, And then with some of my girls, which I don't want to mention their names, it's a hour and a half conversation, So how do you approach boys and girls? What seems to work with you? What's the difference there? Give some pointers here, some tips.
I'm just going to go down here. You don't want to do this? You want it?
Do you have an answer?
I do one.
I would say, honestly, at least in our house personally, I feel like it's actually had more to do with personality of the individual child rather than boys and girls. So when we've had these types of conversations, we have one child who's pretty black and white, pretty logical, and so things can be very much like this. And we have other ones that are a little bit more on the emotional side, and so we just approach things differently, really, with each child. And even within, because we have 2 boys and 2 girls, I think even within that, we have, our boys are very different from each other and our girls are very different from each other. So we've really had to learn how to navigate more personality rather than gender, I think. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's valid. I also think it's valid to look at, as a boy, to look at our young men and say, what is a young man? Like, what's a man? And one of the things we did was, I think in all conversations, including when we had conversations about sex, we talked about honor a lot with our boys. This is what honor is. This is what it looks like, and that lived right in our home. Like you can't mistreat your sister with your words and think you're going to be able to understand honor when you get older. Like you can't do that. So we have a very, very tight-knit family where people are best friends in the home because our young men have to honor our daughters. Our daughters also have to understand how their hearts are made and who they are and why they have these desires and how God made them to be pursued and what they're crafted into. I think if we didn't explain that, it would be very confusing. I think it would be very hard to understand, why do I feel this way? Why do I have this emotion? Why do I have this thing? So I think along with talking about, I think overall our sex talk was very kind of formal. I say sex talks is probably more accurate. But I think aside from that, all of that comes down to heart. So young men, how are you going to honor? Young women, what is your heart doing? What did God create you for? He didn't create you to be thrown away by somebody. He created you to be treasured by somebody. So what does that look like? Young men, honor your wives. Honor the people around you. Honor your mother. We never had one kid yell at Lindsay in the house because they'd all be dead. And so, not one, not ever. Frustrated, sure, but very honorable. And I think that's important because I'm confident 100% that both our sons are going to be honorable to how they speak to their wives and how they speak to their daughters. And then this generational blessing of having people that are able to walk in God's blessing, I think it's just going to continue.
I don't know if we have anything necessarily to add to that.
Yeah, I think with the boys, I think there's the practical things. When we're on the beach in Maui and heads want to turn because they see someone, that's a conversation. Like, hey guys, this is what we do with our eyes. You know what I mean? We don't take a double look. We don't do those things. Pastor Jim was talking about that. Some practical things like that. Guarding your eyes, guarding your mind, guarding your thoughts. But then the underlying side of, because they have sisters, specifically, like, all those girls out there are somebody's sister. And so we want you as young boys to treat them like someone's daughter or someone's sister. And so not just the discipline's good, and Pastor Jim was talking about that, but more that heart level of, like, hey, we want you to see the opposite sex in a friendship way, not in a sexual way. And I think with the boys as well, with all of the kids, just saying, like, breaking the lie that, like, you have sexual desire. You do, and there's nothing wrong with you if you have sexual desire. It's actually normal that you do, and your body is going to respond in certain ways and is responding in certain ways, and you are going to be tempted, and you should feel no shame for temptation. You should feel no shame for your sexual desire that God gave you being awakened. It's what you do with it at that point. You know, and so don't, like, just so there's not this mystique around, like, feeling bad for being how God had made them. So I think that's something with the boys. I don't know if you have something with the girls.
No, I just think we've been thankful that they are attracted to the opposite sex, to be honest. Like the day and age that we live in, you're like, oh, you find that boy attractive. You fancy that boy. That's good. That's normal. Now let's talk about that and what we're going to do with that.
I think as far as on the girl side of things, especially for dads, I just think it's like you don't underestimate like the power of your hugs, your attention, your words. It's okay to tell your daughter that she's beautiful and that you love her and that you care for her. She wants that desperately, and actually the safest and best place for her to receive that until marriage is from you. And I think a lot of times men kind of get sheepish about that kind of thing. Like, I don't want it to be, especially as your daughter matures and whatnot, begins to have a body herself, that you kind of can get like bashful about it. It's like no, like you're her father, like get her that 20-second hug, like where she can just rest and receive your arms, and so tell her she's beautiful, tell her she looks great today. Those kinds of things, seeding those little things in, like do more damage to the kingdom of darkness and the frailty of their identity than you can imagine. And sometimes, like, don't despise small beginnings. Like, don't underestimate the power of those little touches, that time where you spend time with her, that time where you stop and get coffee with her, those types of things. You date your wife, but you can also date and love your daughters.
That is really good.
When we were younger, my dad had a phrase that I'm just remembering: a hug a day keeps the bad boys away. And I hadn't thought about it in a while, but I think it just is true what he said. And he would always tell people that were driving us, you have precious cargo. So I don't know if anyone ever wanted to drive us, like, you got precious cargo there? And everyone's like, but I think just our value of our kids and like that we value them fills them with identity where they're not searching in other places. I think we've alluded to that already, but just that when they feel valued by how we respond to them. We live in a society that doesn't value children. We abort them. So when we say children are valuable and invest in them with our lives, that really speaks to something deep inside of children where they're not then searching and looking for somebody, please say that I'm valuable. And so I think the way that we live and the way that we have a culture, even in our homes, of value for children, and that we, with our words, speak value over children, over life, over people having children, over marriage. That matters in building a culture and in filling their hearts with what, the dream of God, which is for marriage and family and children. And so I think living that out in a way in our homes instills identity, even when they don't consciously know what we're doing, but it matters to them, how we respond to marriage and family in our homes, and I think that instills identity in them as well.
That's really good. All your answers are just really phenomenal. Molly, you taking notes? I think it's what advice would you give to young people that don't have a stable home like that don't have a father that hugs them and tells them they're beautiful and they're precious, that don't have a mom that tells her sons to honor the opposite sex? Are they like stuck and lost, like too bad? Or what advice would you give young people like that?
Initially I would say a community again. We've alluded to it a lot, but find yourself a church community. If you can drive yourself to church. If you have a friend in junior high that goes to a church, see if they will pick you up. It's hard to overestimate the value of community. I think in this battle and in life in general, the community you surround yourself with is so important. And if it is in your heart as a young person and you don't have older people around you, you can find some Like, I would welcome any of my children's friends. Ask a parent that you respect. Ask a young adult that you respect. Just say, hey, I don't have this in my life. I want a mentor. I want someone. There are people who want to give that to you. There are churches full of people. Join a life group. I mean, you don't have to be 18 to join a life group. You can be a young person that's like, I don't have a parent. I want a parent. Like, my heart is so for kids and young people. I meet with young adults, and like, I want to offer to people what they maybe didn't have growing up. And really, the Bible says God sets the lonely in families. He adopts the orphans. And I think that is the heart of, that should be the heart of the church. That should be what is in our blood and in our families, is to adopt those people in, to offer our time and our resources. And I think you can feel overwhelmed as a parent, like, I got 6 kids, I don't have a lot of time. But it doesn't have to be a lot sometimes. It can be a little. And also for young people and others, I was thinking about this during worship, is just, it's worth it to let God build your testimony. Because I think we cannot offer to our children freedom and health in this area if we are ashamed of what's happened in our own lives. But God wants to set you free so that you can offer freedom and hope to your children. And whether you're maybe young or you're old and you have things in your past, like, let God build a testimony of freedom in you so that you can offer to your children maybe what you didn't receive. And to me, that is like the hope of the gospel, is we get to offer to our children maybe what we didn't receive. And we had a great inheritance, but so many people, this is your first go. You're saying it stops with me. And that is so exciting. Like, we were in Kenya at the beginning of the year and in an orphanage, and you just got a whole room, and this is their first chance. They did not receive love. They just received brokenness and chaos and trauma. But getting to look into their eyes and say, this is the hope of the gospel. This is the hope, is that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you can be the Abraham for your generation, And that is the hope of the gospel for everyone in here, is you can be the Abraham, that your children could have the blessing of Isaac and Jacob. And I think instilling that even in your children, like, that's what makes you be able to overcome, is a vision that's bigger than yourself. Like, this is how we change the world, is right here in our homes. It's loving our kids, it's showing up, it's having hard conversations. It can feel like changing the world is going to Kenya, but really how we change the world is the long game of parenting.
That is so good. That's so good. Man, yeah. So I do apologize for the next question because I didn't prepare any one of you for it. It's the $1 million question. That in our life, in our culture of social media and cell phones, I don't have an answer because I'm in the middle of this. So we're kind of like navigating as we go on. How do we navigate all the stuff that you have on here, the lies, the falsehoods, the stuff, but in the midst of it, like, kids want to connect. They want to be a part of community, like we talk about community. They want to have community. How do you navigate? I know we're going to go over a little bit, but how do you navigate this with our sexualized culture and our kids?
Well, I can only talk from my experience, so this is just what we did. It's not, everybody has to talk to Holy Spirit, but we really, in an attempt to protect our children from the sexualized culture, I think media was the biggest way that we did that, or a lack of media. So we have a rule in our house: you can't have a cell phone until you're 16. And so we didn't let our kids have iPads or tablets or internet access. And yes, they want to connect with their friends. We have a landline at our house. We're those people who still have a landline. So they can call and talk to their friends on the phone. They can, they do use computers for their school, but we have so many protections on them. We have 3 different things. We use Covenant Eyes, and we use Apple products so we can set up things. We have a special router that keeps things out, that we can control what comes in. And we've not allowed our kids to have social media until they're 18. But all of this is with lots and lots of conversations. It's lots of relationship. It's not just, well, you can't do any of these things. It's explaining the why and the heart behind it and what is out there. We're very open with our kids, especially because we do have teenagers and adults, and explaining the why behind it, and that pornography is a real thing, and it is that the enemy is out there, and he's going to throw everything he possibly can at you to pull you in and then dump shame all over you. And we've really wanted to do everything in our power to help grow their character and their self-discipline and their heart and their integrity, so that when they are adults and it is all out there, that they have everything in them and their relationship with the Lord to walk in that. So I think our biggest thing has been not allowing a lot of it and finding other ways. We let our kids get together with their friends and spend time with their friends. We're not withholding them from their friends, but finding other ways to connect outside of social media. Yeah.
And on the other area with friends, we were very attentive, asked a lot of questions when our kids were with friends, and our kids knew how we felt about devices. And we're not anti-device. We're just pro-family, and so we don't want our kids to be rocked by something. So we would teach them, if you're at your friend's house and somebody pulls out a device, you need to find something else to do. If it's all about the device, you need to understand how to do this. Now, I understand it's like putting cake in front of kids sometimes, saying don't eat it. But I think if you have the conversation beforehand, they don't have to wonder what they're going to do when they get there. And because we prepared that before they went places, and they didn't have sleepovers, we did a lot of things we didn't do, but a lot of things we did do, and we just say, even if it's outside somewhere and everybody's looking at a video, like what was the video? What was the content? What were you watching? What was it about? And it seems invasive. Maybe people say, well, that's like helicopter parenting. No, it's protection. It's not helicopter parenting. It's keeping our kids in the right trajectory and not letting some thrill for a moment on a device that says you have to watch me, that's designed psychologically to get them to watch the next thing, to appeal to the next thing, to appeal to the next thing. That's great. Those companies want to make money. But behind that is an attack on my kids. And I don't care what people say about the device. I'm not after anybody. I'm just saying we didn't care. We just looked at it, and you can give your children a device at 13 and still accomplish this. But you have to know what they're looking at. You have to be aware. We have every kind of thing we can find to make sure our kids don't have just freedom, because somebody is trying to get into that phone. And the way we look at it is I'm not leaving a window unlocked in my house so they can get in my daughter's room. So I'm not going to leave a device open so somebody can climb into the window of a telephone and tell my daughter that she's not what she is, or my sons that there's something they're not. I just don't agree.
I'd only add, we virtually do the same thing. And even when they do get cell phones, like, people that live in North Korea, they don't have a lot of freedom with their phones. Like, it's kind of like that. Like, there's programs that you can hyper control their cell phones. We buy them cell phones that they don't get. We have North Korea control over our children and their cell phones. And so just that'd be one thing I would add. Other than that, yeah, same thing. We haven't done social media at all until age 18. It's kind of our idea. And then the cell phone has kind of been a 15, 16-year-old thing. Really only for GPS, and if they crash the car in the middle of the night, we want them to be able to call us.
But they don't drive places in the middle of the night, so it won't happen. Also, I will add, it's not just like a Christian parenting thing either. There is so much research continually coming out at the negative effects of screens and social media and those things on our kids. There's a book called Anxious Generation, but it's just detailing all of the research about how negative, I always am telling my kids, because, there's a little pushback, like, other people have it, I'm kind of older now. I'm like, there is not one shred of evidence that is supportive of this. Every single thing that continues to come out is it's negative for our kids. 10-year-olds do not need a device in their pocket. Neither do 12-year-olds. They're not driving anywhere. There's no, if you need some ammo as a parent, there's no research that is this is actually kind of good for them. None of it is good. It is all detrimental to their mental health, to their identity health, to their well-being, not to mention the exposure to things that are not values that we hold dear. And so I'm okay if my kids are a little pissed at us, because I'm like, it's not worth it. I care about your long-term life more than I do about you being on social media. Most of us as adults cannot control ourselves. I mean, do you look at your screen time report? We're adults. We know better. Our brains are fully formed. These children's, there's legitimate things. Their brains aren't fully adult yet. And if we can't as adults, why would we expect that they could do better? So.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one more thing, because we're same thing. We don't do social media, but the comparison thing, I think, yes, sexuality, yes, there's all the negative things, but I'm like, as a mom, I can look as a grown woman and I can be like, oh, I feel terrible about myself now, all the insecurities. And how's my 12-year-old? How's my 14-year-old? They don't know that they weren't invited to that party till they get on social media and they're like, all my friends were there and I wasn't invited. I'm like, you don't need that. You don't even know if they all got together, because you're not on social media. So those are just some like practical things that like just the insecurity and the anxiety, that word over this generation, anxiety, like what is causing all the anxiety? Well, probably everything they're feeding their brains with. And so that's another component.
Yeah, and I think connected to everything we're talking about is, I mean, we've got this window of about 18 years, if we're lucky and our kids move out at that point, but maybe 25 years for some. But really where the goal is to empower them to be able to know what they believe, what they think, to be able to make right decisions. So in the home, they make a poor decision. It's a coaching moment. You're there. You're preparing them for the real world. So homeschool, public school, all our kids are all serving the Lord. It's the same fruit and the same end goal. I think just remembering it is to get them to the place where they can interact with the world, be in the world, not of the world, and not just. There's a discipline side of it, but the goal and everything you're hearing from all of us is the ownership side. Like we've never said to our kids, you can't date, but they've bought into not wanting to date. Even with social media when they're young, it's like saying you need to brush your teeth. Well, I don't want to brush my teeth. But after time, they buy into, I can remember with Rayma with social media, I mean, she bought into that and she's like, I don't want this. It wasn't just that we were saying you can't have it. You know what I mean? There was ownership that's in there. And I think that's the flavor in everything that's being shared up here, and I think for all of us.
Man, thank you. Guys, thank you so much. Let's give them a hand. Thank you.